Hello. How is everyone today? I'm hoping people are good. Let's see. Is this right? Is this working? Yeah. Let's see if we can actually update this to how we want it to. Okay. That looks good. And then if we go over here and we do title, how do I do that? Oh, here we go. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so if you didn't see, 2 days ago, I played Subnautica, and we played it from start to like roughly when about like 2-3 hours in. So that for those who haven't played, or I guess if you, I don't know, that's actually not a very helpful metric now that I know the speed run world record's like 37 minutes. But we played until we got to the alien tech. I don't even know what it's called. It was like an alien structure on an island, and we stopped there because we were infected and we didn't know why or how to cure that. So today I thought we'd watch a video on the timeline of Subnautica to figure out the lore, to understand what's actually going on, and to actually be able to say without a doubt that we know the ending, because I do think it's worth understanding, and a couple of different people in chat recommended that we do that at the end of stream. So I thought that would be a good thing to go through today. And then I also wanted to talk about after that, I wanted to talk about the next game that I had picked then. So yeah, we're just gonna jump right into it. I found this video and it looks good, so we're just gonna watch that. Oh, oops, that's kind of embarrassing. I won't even lie. Nope. Hello. How do I? How do I do that? Hotkeys. Hmm. What did I just put that on? Okay. And we'll do apply. Will this work? Nope. How do I do that? Which one is that? I think it's this one. Okay, there we go. Put that there. Yes, so as I was saying, sorry, we're gonna watch this. I know it's long. We might skip through it at parts, but I am just curious. I want to know the lore since we didn't get to watch it the first time.
What's the first thing you think of when you hear the word Subnautica? I'll give you 5 seconds to answer.
Water, fish, water, First answer, water.
All right, time's up. Chances are you probably said either the environments, the creatures, the leviathans especially,
Nope.
the technology,
Nope.
and all the fancy jazz in between. What I bet
didn't
most
say
of
any
you
of
didn't
that.
say was the surprisingly deep lore of Subnautica. And I mean, to be fair, it makes sense if you didn't say that. But I've always been pretty intrigued by Subnautica's lore. So today,
How much lore is there? Am I crazy for thinking that? I thought it was kind of just like a... Okay, I'm not going to keep pausing it and saying this, but I did say yesterday, I haven't played this game since it came out, which I looked up was about 8 years ago was when I think the initial release was. So I haven't played it in probably 8 years minimum. So when I played this, there wasn't that much lore. So I don't really know how much lore there actually is.
in preparation for Subnautica 2, which is probably going to expand the universe even more, I'm going to go through the entire timeline of Subnautica, Subnautica Below Zero, and try to explain as much as I can about the universe and what goes on in the history of the games. Obviously, there are going to be heavy spoilers for both games in the franchise, so I highly recommend you play both of these.
We're not watching
and go
Below
through
Zero.
the story, then come back
We'll
to
watch
this video.
Subnautica. I don't know what any of this other bit
Got
is.
that? Let's dive in then. We begin our journey around 1,000 years before the events of the first game, during what I am presuming to be the 13th and 14th centuries, which I'm basing off the ancient earth blade we find in the primary containment facility, which is stated to be from around the 13th century. Anyways, we are following the...
What? Where is there even an ancient sword? Huh?
The Architects, an ancient, heavily advanced civilization...
What is this? What is that? Is this a game I just played? Is this the game I was playing yesterday? Surely not, right? Like, what?
Which were so damn smart and tech savvy that they've completely evolved past their need for their evolutionary bodies, and instead choose to navigate space-time in conjunction with mobile biomechanical storage media. These extremely advanced aliens have created technologies like phase gates, the ability to upload their consciousness to computers, and teleportation. So yeah, these guys were pretty smart. We get that now. So during a routine expansion of their empire, they come across a currently unknown planet that holds an extremely deadly pathogen that will one day come to be known as the Corabacterium. But I'm sure that won't be an issue for this super advanced civilization that has quite literally evolved past the need for their own bodies. They've probably dealt with this kind of thing before and have many...
Okay, just to recap, because I feel like it's only been 2 minutes, but so much has happened. 800 years ago, 12th century, super advanced race finds the planet. And we know this because of a sword that was somewhere in the game.
Set precautions in order to stop this bacterium from decimating their civilization. Oh wait, this bacterium is actually decimating their civilization. Yeah, the bacterium made it off-world and into the Architects' empire, infecting and killing 143 billion architects throughout their core worlds. And by the way, this is only confirmed deaths. Just saying. With their species now teetering on the edge of extinction, the Architects begin setting up research outposts on distant planets, hoping to study and find a cure for the Kara. It is on one of these research outpost planets that our story begins. The Architects arrive on planet 4546b, located in the Ariadne arm of an unknown galaxy. There, they begin constructing multiple facilities in a long-dormant volcanic crater to begin studying the Corabacterium. This, of course, includes the disease research facility to test the bacterium on the native species, the quarantine enforcement platform to shoot down any incoming or outgoing craft should shit go sideways, and the alien thermal.
Is that what is that why we crashed? We got shot by a laser? How did we not know that? How were we just like, yeah, the engine's kind of having issues. I'm not really sure what's going on. No, we got shot by a laser. That's what it's saying.
Plant in order to harvest the planet's natural thermal energy as cheap, easy power. The disease research facility is also where the Architects begin building warpers, biomechanical robotic creatures created from combining tons of off-world...
The warpers were biomechanical?
species with their own technology to create programmable guards and hunter-killers. They also built some caches, a fabricator base, and a phase gate in Sector 0, a frozen continent on the other side of the planet.
Yeah, that I didn't play.
Here, okay? Just trust me.
That we don't know. We don't know anything about that.
Is being led by Al Ann, an esteemed architect scientist who has made many scientific contributions that his species admired. Okay, cool.
None of that is relevant.
So we got a high-profile research mission being led by a well-admired and esteemed alien scientist. I'm sure all the bright minds in this mission won't make any fatal miscalculations that will lead to the bacterium breaking out and causing a major mass extinction. Anyways, while studying and testing the bacterium on many different native life forms, they discovered that a species of Leviathan known as the Sea Emperor Leviathan is producing an enzyme known as enzyme 42 that is effective at stopping the Corybacterium and could be turned into a cure. Thus, they construct a final facility in the depths of the volcanic crater known as the Primary Containment Facility, where they bring a nursing Sea Emperor Leviathan and its 7 eggs to study them. Now is a very good time to mention that the Sea Emperor Leviathan is capable of telepathically communicating with other creatures, and is also very old. Right now it's around 1,600 years old. So while she can produce enzymes...
What? Okay. How far are we? It's only been another 2 minutes. Okay. Alien race finds out that one of the where do I even start, bro? It's only been 2 seconds. Okay. One of the alien races finds out, or one of the people of the alien race on the planet, they find out that the King Leviathan, is that what they said? This one? This Leviathan, this guy. His enzyme can stop the pathogen. So they were like, let's just capture him and his children, or him/her and their children.
42 by herself. It's a crappier version that only delays the bacterium. So Al Ann and the other architects set their sights on her 7 babies, which they think when hatched will produce a much better enzyme for combating the bacterium. Alright,
so we're stealing the babies of the Leviathan.
To make the eggs hatch. They dissect one of the eggs, but the baby Leviathan dies during the process, making its enzymes unusable. They took one of the other eggs for testing, but still couldn't elicit any hatching response from it. This is because the eggs require another substance known as hatching enzymes, which requires plants from numerous biomes that are the Leviathan's natural habitats. The Sea Emperor tries to communicate to the architects to tell them this, but they can't hear it. I'm gonna chalk it up to the architects being cybernetic biomechanical beings. Because of this, their attempts to force the hatching fail, and they attach the remaining 5 eggs to an incubator whilst they figure out their next move. Needing a way to elicit a hatching response from the Emperor eggs, Alan notices that another Leviathan named the Sea Dragon is quite closely related to the Sea Emperor, which makes him think that if he incubates their eggs, he can figure out what can make the Emperor babies tick. Disobeying the directive from the greater architect network, Alan steals Sea Dragon eggs from a breeding adult and takes them to the disease research facility in the Lost River. Whilst Alan's theory wasn't wrong, this move pisses off the Sea Dragon parent, of course, and it tracks down its eggs to the facility. It immediately attacks the facility by ramming into the exterior anchor cables and causing the facility to begin sinking. Breaches in the wall of the complex begin releasing the Corybacterium into the environment, infecting numerous species. I cannot begin to express how unbelievably stupid Alan was for this. The architects were...
Yeah, that is stupid. Okay. I am following. I literally didn't even know the beginning of this. I didn't know the first thing about any of this happening, so I don't know where I was supposed to learn any of this, but this is crazy lore.
Were obviously on the planet for a long while in order to build all of these facilities, including 2 right smack dab in the lava zone, meaning Alan and the other architects were well aware of how aggressive the sea dragons were. Stealing eggs from an aggressive, carnivorous, Godzilla-sized underwater lizard that breathes fire has absolutely got to be the dumbest possible route the architects could have taken. As far as we're aware, the facility doesn't have any defenses besides warpers and probably some generic laser rifles, meaning Alan was...
Wait, so the warpers are the defenders for the alien structure? So when we saw a warper, we should have kept going. We were led astray yesterday. We should have continued on. That's okay.
Beyond dumb to bring the eggs here and not to a facility further away from the lava zones. Seriously, if he ever gets in contact with his species again, they should unironically delete his consciousness as punishment for completely screwing over the best shot at a...
That's a little extreme. We don't need to delete anyone's consciousness. We do not need to execute this guy because of that. He was just being silly. That's a crazy response. Crazy response.
And causing the near extinction of their species. Okay, ran over. The sea dragon, being severely injured by the attack, dies shortly afterward in another area of the Lost River, and the bacterium begins infecting everything on the planet. So the architects initiate a planetary quarantine, they begin evacuating, they activate the quarantine enforcement platform, and order all of their warpers to begin killing creatures infected with the Kara. Some upload their lines to
that's why I didn't get attacked.
crater, while many others just succumb to the bacterium.
Came and checked me out.
Meanwhile, gets his consciousness uploaded to a very special super storage media in a cube in Sector 0. As for why, I have no idea. He doesn't deserve this special storage since he completely fucked over this operation. Anyways, yeah, the Kara bacterium spreads across the planet and initiates a mass extinction event, killing off many species including every last wild sea emperor leviathan, after destroying their food source. The survivors will be forced to rapidly adapt to the extinction event, which is helped by the sea emperor training peepers to carry her shitty enzyme 42 to the surface, helping
Whoa.
Anyways, yeah, the Kara bacterium spreads across the planet and initiates a mass extinction event, killing off many species including every last wild sea emperor leviathan, after
Who did that?
This operation. Anyways, yeah, the Kara bacterium spreads across the planet and initiates a mass extinction event, killing off many species including every last wild sea emperor leviathan, after
the bacteria kills leviathan.
Survivors will be forced to rapidly adapt to the extinction event, which is helped by the sea emperor training peepers to carry her shitty enzyme 42 to the surface, helping life at least survive in the crater surrounding her prison. After this, it is presumed that the architects just went extinct. Although
my god, we saw those. We were right there. Okay, so the peepers have the crappy enzyme, which don't cure things, but help keep them alive somehow. And so that was what was going on. That was what we were doing. I didn't know that. This is crazy lore.
Maybe some population survive somehow, waiting for a cure to be brought back.
Part 2, the expanse in the Charter and the Federation. Okay. So this is presumably
following
after
the demise of the architects.
Okay, this
we
is
are now
800
going
years
to
later.
Cut to the near future of humanity, a future in which humankind is beginning to spread across the galaxy. Earth remains the center of humankind in space until something changes everything: the discovery of phase gate travel. This method of faster than light travel enables humanity to expand much further than ever before. The people on these distant colonies soon declared their independence from Earth, which we'll refer to as the Sol Transco from now on. The discovery of phase gate travel was followed closely by an event known as the Expansion, which is implied by the PDAs to be a massive conflict between many nations in space. This conflict was egged on by a mega corporation known as Altera, who began life as a defense manufacturer in the mid-22nd century. Altera supplied arms to all sides during the war, in order to profit from it and grow its workforce, which by the way is horrendously fucked up. They literally egged on a galactic...
So Altera, the company that we were a part of, and a crew member on a ship of, they were supplying arms to an intergalactic war where thousands, presumably millions or hundreds of millions of people were dying. And we were a big part of that, or not a big part of that, but we were a part of that. So we are that's why Sunbeam, the small ship that was supposed to come get us, didn't like us. They didn't like Altera because presumably nobody likes Altera because they're basically culprit number 1 in this war here.
War, which probably killed millions of people by supplying arms to the warring countries. Anyways, Altera later threatens to cease its arms trade, which leads to a turning point in the expansion and eventually the end of the conflict. It is here that 37 governing entities, including Altera and Sol, sign the Charter and transform into trans governments. This also establishes the Trans System Federation between the Transgovs in order to enforce the Charter. With this, humanity continues to expand across the stars.
Okay. Following. The Mercury 2 disaster. I don't know what Mercury 2 is. I'm not gonna lie.
We're now cutting to around 3 decades prior to the crash of the Aurora, a vessel known as the Mercury 2 owned by the Sol Transgov, who are in control of Earth's solar system as implied by both its name and the Mercury 2 sharing a name with one of our planets, and who are also implied by some cut data entries to be a fully communist government with a flat social structure, common goods to all of their citizens, and no internal currency. So yeah, it looks like Earth in this universe is controlled by a fully communist government. Anyways, the Mercury 2 is returning to Sol, being commanded by Captain Diana with numerous crew members on board. We'll go for some of the important ones real quick.
Where was
Elliot,
this?
a xenolinguist, Stephanos, a nice Greek guy who is a ship's engineer, and Yasmin. While on his way through the 4546 system, the Mercury 2 passes by planet 4546b, and the xenolinguist, Elliot, scans the surface of the planet and detects the numerous architect structures scattered around the surface. He successfully convinces the captain, Diana,
Okay, this has
to
got to
land
be
the
below
Mercury 2
zero
on
stuff.
planet 4546b
Because this is just
to explore the
completely
alien
new.
bases. They bring the Mercury 2 closer to the planet to try and land it on the surface, and the quarantine enforcement platform, of course, is going to detect it and fires on the vessel. I'll give Diana just one thing, and it's that she knows how to pilot a fucking ship, as she makes the ship fire off flares and dump the nuclear reactor's water, which is super hot, so it confuses the enforcement platform, making it miss. Despite their distraction and evasive maneuvers, the sonic boom from the evaporating water still forces the Mercury to make an emergency landing in the Arctic spires of Sector 0.
Okay,
Diana
yes.
takes a minute to suck her own dick.
My instincts are never wrong.
Elliot leads the team out to the water
Okay,
to find themselves
Mercury
some damn
2, we don't
aliens,
care
son.
about. This is below zero stuff. We're gonna skip all of that. Because that is irrelevant to what
Continuing the theme
I actually
of passing ships
care
getting
about, which is
wrecked by the
Subnautica
quarantine
base
enforcement
game.
platform, we travel to 1 decade before the Aurora's crash, following
we're still
the
before
Degassi,
the
a
Aurora.
Mongolian vessel piloted by Torgal Corporation CEO Paul Torgal. The Torgal Corp hails from the Mongolian Independent States, a fast-growing transgov that is literally just a galactic Mongol empire. I guess in this
Where
universe,
was any
Genghis
of
Khan
this?
was reincarnated
Okay.
and brought his fellow Mongolians glory by conquering the stars. Awesome. Paul is accompanied by Bart Torgal, his only legitimate son and heir to his corporation.
Oh.
Bart isn't interested in being a stoic
Is this
venture
the
capitalist, though,
floating
and is more like
island?
me when I play Subnautica, just absolutely obsessed with alien biology. He's also accompanied by Marguerite Meta, a badass freelance mercenary Paul commissioned for extra security.
I
Plus, 3 more
swear
unnamed crew
I
members.
skipped
The
this in the
Degassi
YouTube
is
video
on
that
its
I
way
made
to a
today,
Mongolian
but
space station in the
this is
Ariadne
what we
Arm,
talked.
passes by
This
the
is what they were talking
4546
about. I'm pretty
system
sure.
towards
At least I'm pretty sure. I skipped this in the video because I was just like, it's irrelevant. But now that I'm hearing this, it might actually have bearing on literally anything going on. So perhaps that was silly of me, but we'll see.
planet 4546b when Paul makes an unscheduled detour to an uncharted planet. A stupid decision that Marguerite is quick to call him out for.
I know enough not to take unscheduled detours to uncharted planets. That's something you don't want to learn the hard way.
So same deal with the Mercury. The
Right.
quarantine enforcement platform fires at
Okay,
the
so
Degassi, but
ship
this time
number
directly
2
hits the
shot
ship
down.
instead of missing like it did of the Mercury. The Degassi
This makes
crash
sense.
lands on planet 4546b in the crater, killing the 3 unnamed crew members, whilst Paul, Bart, and Marguerite escape in a life pod. They drift in
Okay.
the life pod with some ocean storms outside as described by Paul, and eventually wash up on the shores of a landmass, being held up by giant floaters when the weather clears. The survivors
Right.
salvage the Degassi wreck from metal and build their first
Okay,
base on
this
the
is what
floating
I
island.
remember.
Paul is
This is what we did. This is what I went and saw yesterday or 2 days ago on stream. We went and saw all of this stuff. We saw the 3 structures and we saw all the things inside and we collected all of their PDA information.
ecstatic at finding this landmass with no predators and fresh food among the waves. But Marguerite isn't so sure, convinced that since they're surrounded by ocean, they have no choice but to go deeper. Meanwhile, Paul just wants to stay on the island and wait for rescue, and Bart is forced to act as the peacekeeper between the two. This is the dynamic that will define their interactions through the Degassi storyline. The weather soon
Okay.
turns evil on the trio, and a massive storm hits the floating island, flooding their grow beds. Bart wants to go out and drain the grow beds of the stormwater so, they can actually eat. But Paul refuses, saying his life is much too profitable for him to risk. Marguerite scares the shit out of Paul real quick just to teach him a lesson, and Paul eventually lets Bart go back to the grow beds.
You know how to drain those grow beds of 40 tons of stormwater? Or how to conjure food from the air?
I know how to prioritize.
I'm just saying, if that's so, what's your boy's life worth to you today? If tomorrow you're gonna be so hungry you start wondering what he tastes like, let him go deal with the plants.
Son, go deal with the plants.
Paul responds by
see.
threatening to leave Marguerite on the planet, which she just brushes off like a pro. Soon enough, they find an architect purple tablet on the beach of the island and surmise that they're not the first ones to come to the planet, with Marguerite correctly assuming the beings to be aliens. A few more days of rain and a landslide
Well, yeah,
later,
everyone's
and
an
their habitat
alien.
is half buried and food washed away,
Everyone
making
is an
Marguerite
alien.
so pissed she just hits Paul in the face. The trio then decide to relocate to the Jelly Shroom Caves, a very solid base location that has tons of materials and just looks fucking beautiful. Bart is like me when I go to the Jelly Shroom Caves and is just admiring all the glowing fish, beautiful jelly shrooms, and deadly
Right,
crab
this is
snakes.
awesome.
Bart wants to build some equipment to study the life forms in the caves, but needs more enameled glass. which, as you all probably know by now, needs stalker teeth. Marguerite
I didn't know
listened to
that.
the kid and went out to the kelp forest and fought a pack of stalkers for their teeth. Good job taking initiative, Marguerite. You're already doing more to get those teeth than I do. I just wait in my Seamoth for them to drop their teeth for me. Marguerite's also doing more than Paul right now, who's just sitting in the habitat being a total fucking deadbeat, trying to indoctrinate his son into his rich guy mindset. This frustrates Maida, who's sick and tired of Paul being a bourgeois bozo, and plots to leave the other two behind in order to go deeper and find out what shot them down.
Literally, where was any of this lore? Like, where on the planet could I have figured out any of this? Genuinely. There's no way that all of this was here. I just don't believe that. There's no way.
You, don't have to go that deep, I'm just saying. She eventually builds herself a Seamoth and begins exploring, trying to find a way to go deeper, as seen in the cinematic trailer. Also in the cinematic trailer, you can see a Reaper attack and destroy a Seamoth, which I now theorize to be Marge's. It makes plenty of sense that her Seamoth got destroyed, since we know she ended up staying with the bourgeois pair. So her Seamoth is wrecked by a Reaper Leviathan and she swims back to the habitat in the caves, which by now is leaking water. Bart finds something on the scanner, an alien base, likely the disease research facility in the Lost River. Which makes Maida decide to convince Paul to take them deeper towards the deep Grand Reef, 500 meters below
so there's
sea
their
level.
base.
After some
We were
thinking,
almost
Paul
there.
decides to listen to Maida,
Oh, man.
and they go even deeper, building a base in the aforementioned biome. Their tensions reach an all-time high, with Paul holding himself and Bart up in the base and refusing to go outside, whilst Marguerite wants to go even deeper and find the alien structures. Bart soon discovers that all three of them are infected with the Kara bacterium, which has infected every single creature on the planet by this point. Marge decides...
What? Would this have happened
bacterium, which
later?
has infected every single creature on the planet by this point. Marge decides to help him by bringing him specimens to study, but usually just brings them in either dead or dying, frustrating Bart's efforts. Marguerite eventually attacks, maims, and tows the Reaper Leviathan to the base on the back of a Cyclops.
Dude, what? She's crazy.
This sends Paul over the edge, rightfully worrying that the Leviathan isn't dead or that others might follow it. Paul, infuriated with Maida, wants her off the sea base, whilst Bart tries to mediate the argument and tell them that they're both wrong. That Paul's being too careful and Maida's being too reckless by just slaughtering all the creatures. But the two don't budge. Bart is done with this shit and decides to just go outside, with Paul yelling at him to bring his profitable ass back inside. Suddenly, a second Reaper Leviathan arrives at the deep Grand Reef and approaches the base, alarming Marguerite. The Reaper attacks the base and tears a hole clear through the reinforced hull, throwing Paul out of the base.
Came out of nowhere. An alien kraken, bigger than a cyclops. Tore a hole clear through the reinforced hull.
That's a little tragic.
Got my breather in time. I told her. I said others would come. The rupture threw me clear of the habitat, and the monster turned and bore down on me. And just as its tentacles came within reach, Maida appeared out of nowhere. She had a sea glide in one hand, a jagged piece of scrap metal in the other. She meant to butcher that beast or die trying.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
this girl's crazy.
She had the metal lodged in its neck as the monster did its best to shake her, contorting off into the darkness. I'm certain she got her wish, one way or another.
Okay,
then,
so she died.
I thought I saw a light. Deep below me.
Okay, so recap time. As far as this ship, there are 6 people on a ship. They take an unplanned detour to an uncharted planet, which is the planet that we were on. 3 of them died, 3 unnamed crew members, leaving 1 mercenary and then the father and the son. So they build an island, they build bases on the floating island. And then after that, they realize they need to go deeper. So they build a base in the mushroom area. And then they realize they need to go deeper again because they realize they're all infected. So they decide to go from the mushroom place to that like floating like blue thingy. And then from the floating blue thingy, they decide that they need to go even deeper. Or sorry, when they were there, they decided to get alien specimens and the bounty hunter is just bringing them all back dead. And she managed somehow to get a Reaper Leviathan. So then they got attacked, their base got attacked by a second one because, I don't know, just because. And then the bounty hunter was fighting it and got dragged to the deep. That's my understanding.
I hope maybe Bart had swum clear. I followed it. Now I wonder whether I saw anything at all. My oxygen is low. The habitat is gone. I can't see the sky.
Oh, not ideal.
Something surely has the scent of my blood.
Maida continued to fight the creature and eventually killed it. She will eventually ride its corpse all the way across the open ocean towards Sector 0, where she will continue to survive for the next decade. Meanwhile, Bart managed to swim clear of the chaos and got back to the surface. He continued his efforts to make a cure for the Kara, building a new base closer to the shallows and trying to make friends with a peeper. The Kara continued to take hold of him, however, scaring his new friend, and he's even starting to see visions now, which many now theorize to be the Sea Emperor trying to communicate with him. Bart eventually goes back to the floating island and records one final log.
This is the first time I've seen sunlight in months. After all that time in the deep, I'd been dreaming of it. Now that I'm back here, I'm finding it hard to enjoy alone. Father was right.
That's so sad.
We should never have left this place.
That's so
Shouldn't
sad.
have gone so deep. They do not want us down there. Despite my best efforts, ill health is taking hold of me. Marguerite and Father are now part of the ecosystem of this incredible planet. It's reassuring to know that when I go, I'll join them.
That's
Until
so
then,
crazy.
well, there's always the view.
Dude, the lore in this game is incredible. Okay, I'm following.
We cut to one decade after the crash of the Degassi, where the Altera Corporation has launched the Aurora, their newest, snazziest, fanciest capital starship with a mission to build a phase gate in the Ariadne Arm. The ship is also secretly tasked with locating and rescuing the crew of the Degassi, and as such is planned to make a gravity slingshot maneuver around planet 4546b and locate the Degassi using its advanced scanning suite. Altera wants to locate and rescue the crew in order to aid its diplomatic negotiations with the Mongolian states, and brought along a Mongolian diplomat named Yoki Kasar. With these two missions, the Aurora sets off from Altera space bound for the Ariadne Arm. 13 months post-launch, the Aurora has reached the 4546 solar system, performing a gravity slingshot maneuver around planet 4546b in order to locate the Degassi. The Aurora is fired at and struck on its starboard side by the Quarantine Enforcement Platform's laser. This sends the Aurora crashing towards the planet, but through the expert piloting skills of the ship's captain, Hollister, he is able to make her take a controlled descent towards the crater. Meanwhile, life pods 1 through 25 were successfully launched from the ship, whilst pods 26 through 50 were too damaged to be launched. 10 life pods make it to the crater in relatively shallow waters, whilst the others crash in open ocean, their occupants presumably slaughtered by packs of ghost leviathans. Captain Hollister, in an attempt to save his crew from certain death, orders Second Officer Keene to regroup the crew at the floating island, and intentionally crashes the ship into the crater in order to leave the ship in one piece, so his crew can contact Altera on his long-range radio. Captain Hollister refuses to evacuate and dies as the Aurora crashes into the shallow sections of the crater, giving his life so his crew could have a chance to live. Way to do was necessary, Captain. We salute you. But his efforts were for the most part in vain, as 9 of the 10 life pods that made it to the crater will end up being destroyed, with their occupants getting killed by the wildlife. Life pod 5, meanwhile, landed in the safe shallows, a relatively safe region of the crater made up of vibrant coral
that's
reefs.
us.
Life pod 5 contained Riley Robinson, the non-essential systems maintenance chief of the Aurora.
I didn't know
when
we
the
had a
pod
job.
jettisoned, Riley was hit in the face by a metal panel that got detached and flown off into space. Riley was unconscious, whilst all the other crew members of the Aurora met their ends. Riley came to while a massive fire was blazing inside his life pod. He quickly put it out, and his PDA rebooted in emergency mode, a mode designed to keep him alive on 4546b until rescue. Riley disembarked the life pod whilst the PDA informed him that no humans were left alive aboard the Aurora. Riley descended into the depths and began constructing various tools and equipment to aid in his fight for survival, whilst living off the planet by eating various fish and getting water from bladderfish. After around a week, the Aurora experiences a quantum detonation of the drive core, blowing massive parts of the ship's wreckage to smithereens. Riley intercepts the distress signals from the now destroyed life pods and salvages blueprints and materials from many of them whilst learning of the fates of the occupants. He also gets contacted by the trading vessel Sunbeam, which is currently out on the far side of the 4546 system. They've detected the Aurora's automatic distress signal but are confused on whether or not the ship still requires assistance due to not getting a response. Avery Quinn, the ship's captain, decides to try try to contact the ill-fated vessel again later. The Sunbeam eventually detects the debris field of the Aurora around 4546b, realizing the gravity of the situation. Avery charts a course for the planet and tells Riley that they will rescue him. Meanwhile, Riley continues to go about surviving on the planet, constructing a Seamoth at first, then bigger, more expensive vehicles like the Cyclops and the Prawn Suit. Riley also begins building his own sea base in the crater. The Sunbeam eventually arrives at 4546b and informs Riley they will be landing at a landmass in the northern regions of the crater. When Riley arrives at the island, he lays eyes upon the quarantine enforcement platform, which then activates and fires at the Sunbeam as it makes its way towards the surface.
No. No. Don't do it.
Survivor, we see you. Man, I don't know how you held out down there. We broke an atmosphere, and we're descending towards the landing site. Is that a building down there? What do you mean you can't identify it?
No, Sunbeam.
No turning back now.
Turn back. You should turn back.
9, 8. It's coming from the building? Change course. Set thrusters to full.
No. No, that's so sad. Bro, aliens.
After the destruction of the Sunbeam, Riley explores the QEP and attempts to deactivate the facility from its control room, but discovers that he's infected with the Kara bacterium and that infected individuals cannot disable the weapon. Realizing now that he is infected with
I did that the wrong way, but
Riley
yeah.
explores the Aurora, gets the blueprint for a Neptune escape rocket that Altera sent to the ship's computer for him, and repairs its blown drive core before descending deeper in search of answers.
That
He
definitely
arrives
wasn't
at
a
the
thing
Lost
before.
River, an extensive cave system filled with acidic brine pools, which also contains the disease research facility, where he learns of the Warpers and realizes that they are hunting him. With his infection becoming more severe and forming glowing green cysts on his skin, Riley descends deeper into the heart of the volcanic crater, where he learns of the now 2,600-year-old Sea Emperor Leviathan and where it's holed up at. He dodges sea dragons and arrives at the primary containment facility and follows the Sea Emperor's given instructions to hatch her remaining 5 eggs. Riley gains the blueprint for the Sea Emperor's hatching enzymes from the massive Leviathan, and uses the facility's on-site warp gates to collect all of the needed ingredients before fabricating them.
Wait, that's sick. That's so cool. What? Wait, that's sick. Dude, W family reunion. She's been waiting 1,000 years for that. Wait, that's so awesome. No!
My young are swimming for the shallows. I thank you. Their freedom is my end.
Dude, that guy's not
What
swimming
will it
anywhere,
be
bro.
like, I
He don't know how to swim yet.
to go to sleep and never wake up.
Oh,
Perhaps next we meet, I will be an ocean current, carrying seeds to a new land. Or a creature so small, it sees the gaps between the grains of sand.
that's so
Farewell,
sick.
friend.
It's so sad that she dies, but what an
Riley
ending.
then comes in contact with the stable enzyme 42, which cures his infection and gets rid of the glowing green cysts. The Sea Emperors will eventually grow up and spread enzyme 42 across the planet, ending the Kara outbreak on 4546b. He then disables the QEP once and for all and constructs the Neptune escape rocket. Riley departs planet 4546b towards the nearest phase gate. Upon arriving, Riley is informed by Altera that before landing he must pay his outstanding balance of 1 trillion credits. Also, upon his return
What?
to Altera, Riley probably made his odds of landing better by informing Altera of what he found on the planet, which piques Altera's interest in the uncharted ocean world. What happens to Riley afterwards is currently unknown, although I personally think Altera executed him to keep their discoveries a secret.
That's crazy. That is insane. So we get executed. All of that just to get executed. That's crazy. My goodness. Okay. That was kind of revealing though. Like revealing. Like I feel like I actually learned things. So I'm not upset about that, to be honest. But I did want to talk about one more thing today before I end stream. So at the end of last stream, at the end of the Subnautica stream. So I did want to talk about one more thing. Last time, at the end of the Subnautica stream, I picked a random number for what game we were going to be playing next. And I chose 94. And 94 correlated to RoboCraft 2. Now, RoboCraft 2 is another game that I was pretty excited for because it was a game I had never opened. So RoboCraft 1, I played when it probably also 10 years ago when it came out. Like I probably played that game in like 2015 or 2016. Like it was a long time ago. And I went to go download it between that last stream and this stream. And I realized RoboCraft 2 can't be downloaded. It's not on Steam anymore. So I went on a whole quest trying to figure out what happened to it because I was figuring, oh, if RoboCraft 2 is not out yet, I know it had been in like development for a really long time. So I was just like, if RoboCraft 2 isn't out yet, like that's not a big deal. We can pivot and we can play RoboCraft 1 instead. So I went to look at RoboCraft 1 and we also cannot play RoboCraft 1. So finding that out, I went on a full mission to figure out what's going on. And I realized we have not one, but 3 games are currently caught with this issue. Oh. Okay. So I wanted to pull this up and read this to you guys because this is what I remember about RoboCraft 1. So if we go back, RoboCraft was a game that was basically where you could build robots and you could design. Okay, so before we get into what happened to these games, I realized I want to go over at least RoboCraft 2. RoboCraft 1 before we get to RoboCraft 2. So RoboCraft 1 was a game, it was kind of a block-based game. It was basically like a game where you could design a robot. It would have shields, it would have guns, it could have motors, it could have wheels or like wings or hover pads, like literally so many different things. And you could just design a ship however you wanted it to, and then you would be playing as that ship in a game. So you would go into the game and you'd be fighting against other people who have built their own ships, and it was just general like random things. There'd be like team deathmatch, and there'd be like King of the Hill or like zone control and like a bunch of different game modes. And I remember playing this, like I said, years and years and years ago, and it kind of just fell out of fashion with me. Like it fell out of favor with me, I suppose. And so when I heard RoboCraft 2 was coming out, I wishlisted it on Steam, and I'd gotten it during early access, but I never played it. So RoboCraft 2, I presume, is really similar. And I don't know what happened to it. Like I know it's similar, but I do know what happened to it now, but I don't know what any of it was actually like because I never got to play it. So now I want to actually talk about what happened to RoboCraft 1. So RoboCraft 2014 was, I believe, when it was released. Yeah, major game update. So it was at least out in 2014. 2015 was kind of the golden age, and 2016, as far as I can understand, this was the golden age of the game in the developer's eyes. 2017, less stuff happened. 2018, apparently just nothing happened. But I guess they were working on this big update for 2019. Irrelevant. RoboCraft 2 gets announced in 2023. What? Oh, sorry. RoboCraft 2 gets announced 2019. After, in 2023, RoboCraft 2 gets released in early access, but it gets mostly negative reviews, complaining about lack of content, slow combat, underwhelming weapons, no team communication or party system, and performance optimization issues. So just generally, it wasn't received well. RoboCraft 2 was not the successor to RoboCraft 1 that I guess the community was looking for. So this was November that RoboCraft 2 was released in early access, but in January 22nd, the next year, it's only like 2 months later, they announced that they just decided to rebuild the game from the ground up to make it to the 2014-2015 era that I was talking about earlier. So they just decided to scrap everything they had so far and redo it. This is January 22nd of 2024. On February 2nd of 2024, it was delisted from digital platforms. On June 6th, it was announced that there was going to be a closed beta. On June 6th, it was announced that there was going to be a closed playtest for RoboCraft 2 planned on the next day. But nothing ever followed that. There was that playtest, as far as I can tell, never actually happened. Then, the following year, very early the next year, Free Jam Games, the company that owns RoboCraft 1 and 2, was announced that they were closing. They were just shutting down, and RoboCraft 2 never got released into full access. So what that means is we just can't play RoboCraft 1 or RoboCraft 2. We just simply can't actually test them to put them on our list. And I actually looked at some of the other games that they had made, and I realized these are the games that they made. So we actually not only lose 2 games, we're actually going to lose 3 games from this. So we lose RoboCraft 1, RoboCraft 2, and Card Life. And since I didn't get to talk about Card Life yet, I'm going to briefly mention what I remember about that game. And we're going to see, just because I think it deserves mentioning on the rewind before we put all of these games in their category. Card Life, from what I remember, was a survival game where the whole thing was everything was made out of cardboard. So you got to design your own weapons and characters. Like, you cut it out of cardboard. And that's all I remember. It was just a survival game. I don't remember getting that far into it, but at the same time, I do know I have quite a few hours in it. I have 8.5 hours on Card Life. RoboCraft 1, I have 64 hours, and RoboCraft 2, I never even opened. So I do think we have to talk about, now that the games are dead, what category do they go into? So obviously we weren't able to actually test any of these games today, but I don't think that's going to stop me from ranking them. I think they still deserve a rank. And I think actually all 3 of these games are going to deserve the same rank. I think we're going to give RoboCraft 1 a D. RoboCraft 2, we're going to give a D. And Card Life, we're also going to give a D. The reason I'm giving all of them the same grade and all D is because D stands for dead and the games are dead. So we can't even play them. We can't test them. The games have literally died. I think D is just going to be the category of get dead games. And I'm specifically reserving category F for games that are so bad they are worse than the games that are dead. Somehow they're worse. So we're saving that category for later. But that's it. All 3 of those games that we were going to play, or not all 3 of the games, but the games that we were going to play and 2 collateral games we find out are dead, and we can't have them be a part of the rewind. So I figured the last thing to do for today's stream is write down the games, I figured the last thing to do for today's stream is pick the next game that we're going to play. So we have 151 games left. So if we do a random number generator from 1 to 151, or sorry, 141, we're going to randomly generate and we're going to get number 76. What is 76? 76 is Pavlov, which is a VR game. And if I remember correctly, might also be dead. I'm not going to look at that now, but if we are playing a new game again, I'll let you know at the beginning of next stream, or at the beginning of the next video. So that is unfortunately the fate of all three of the games made by Free Jam Studios, and there's not much more that we can say about these ones because there's just nothing we can do with these. So I think that's going to be it, and I will see you guys for the next episode of The Rewind. And as far as you guys chat, I think we might just be done for the day because I don't know what else to talk about. I don't really have any more of a plan today. So I think we are just going to end stream today and we're going to call it good. So I appreciate everyone watching. And I hope to see all of you guys next time. I'll see you later.